Edward Cohen here. This is Tangent PropTech. Thanks for hitting play on another episode. Welcome to the show. If you work in real estate, PropTech, development, or if you're just obsessed with making buildings and cities better, this show is for you. Sometimes the best real estate ideas start with a tangent. Today with me, Adam Segal, co-founder and CEO of Cove. We're going to be discussing new feedback models for owners and operators, engagement data and its influence on leasing, capital improvements, and tenant retention, and some common blind spots that operators are still experiencing. That and so much more. And here to discuss this is Adam Segal. Hi, Adam. Where does this podcast find you?
Hey, Edward. First, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Listener of Tangent. So excited to have a conversation. I'm based in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital.
How is the Domino's pizza tracker doing?
Oh, in terms of was that a Doge thing?
The Domino's pizza tracker is when the orders on
Yeah,
Domino's Pizza near the Pentagon spike that something is about to happen. So on Twitter, it became
got it.
on X, it became popular, the Domino's pizza tracker right before a major geopolitical event.
Got it. So it recently spiked, is what you're saying. I understand.
What I'm saying is like that oven at Domino's Pizza must be working harder than any oven in the country.
That is very fair. A lot of activity geopolitically, but for those of us not in government focused on real estate, you kind of forget sometimes where you are. So I read in the news as well, but a little immune to what's going on.
Kudos for you for focusing and compartmentalizing. But before we get started in the state of commercial real estate operations, just tell us a bit about your background and how you got to starting Cove.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, we actually didn't start as a software company. We started as an operator. So we were Jeremy Scott, my co-founder, our CTO. We built out a network of 25 co-working spaces, and it was built on a platform, a technology platform that we built for ourselves to run our operations. So think the member experience, our tenants, the operations, had we engaged with the space, unlocking doors. We're actually operating primarily out of retail spaces. So first floor, we controlled the experience. It was all part of one solution. We started to get more into more office buildings based off of the expansion and realized just what we thought was how offline the experience was. And so we saw an opportunity to apply our more retail, customer-centric approach to how commercial real estate operates and set out on a journey to consolidate and create the single platform that operators would use, that tenants would use, that vendors would use, that visitors would use, to really just simplifies everyone's lives and be a partner to the overall building experience.
Fascinating. So talk about the type of assets that you work with and what areas are you seeing most adoption in?
Yeah, it's been an evolution for us. So we built this consolidated platform. The initial kernels were from our own usage and really applied it to the overall asset, right? The full commercial building experience. Downtown Class A office has so many different touch points, a lot of different point solutions. And so we solve for that environment first, which is kind of what I noted, visitor management, access control, how can you use your phone as your fob, work orders, preventive maintenance. There's all of these things that often get siloed or delivered by a single point solution. And so our objective, our mission was to consolidate into a single platform. Once we were able to do it there, we do like Willis Tower in Chicago, the biggest commercial building in the US. We use that to say, hey, where can we find value, not just in commercial office, but in other verticals that have similar kind of needs. And so we operate at scale in industrial, life sciences, retail. Now, in the instance of retail and industrial, it's not necessarily the same platform in its entirety, but it's pieces of it packaged for that asset class. So we've been really fortunate. We're in somewhere around 3,000 or 4,000 buildings now. We have a great presence in New York City. Why? Because of kind of that earlier comment on Class A, downtown, the most sophisticated assets. We actually add the most value because we can consolidate and save for folks. So we do about 15% of Manhattan and are powering tens of thousands of visitors a day with our visitor management system and access control integrations.
Very cool. Lots to unpack there. But before then, did you just say the Willis Tower is the largest commercial building in the country? Is that by square feet?
Yeah,
Or
but
are we not
yeah,
counting the antenna at One World Trade Center?
no, this is by square feet. 4 million square feet, I think 400,000 of retail, but it's divided into three towers in Chicago. Used to be called Sears Tower for those that
Yep.
are
Yep.
true and tested Chicagoans and are unwilling to accept the Willis Tower name. But yeah, it's massive. There's 100 people that operate that asset 24/7, three shifts of engineer crews. We're
Wow.
training them all. It's a little city. They have their own trades. It's awesome, right? Like downtown, I forget, like downtown Miami has like 12 million square feet. This one, and don't quote me on the exact number, but should have used a better example.
That's a
But
perfect example to trigger the exact people that are
yeah,
still super proud of Miami, but right now because
exactly.
there's a lot of excitement happening there.
Yeah, talk about it. If there's not if there's 12 today, there's probably 20 tomorrow, given what's going on down there. And we do support some great ones on Brickell, by the way, an awesome street in Miami. But yeah, but if you think about it as a standalone asset, it's just some Willis is a monstrosity. And you know what's interesting? In a lot of ways, we've kind of solved for challenges there, but it has led us to creating a more user-friendly, simplified product because it's in so many hands, so many operator hands, right? Our objective is win the hearts and minds of that full operating spectrum, whether it's front desk, security, property manager, day porter, engineer. And so we really have to make it like as intuitive as possible, especially given there's a lot of rotation, there's turnover, there's so many factors that we want to make sure that it's as seamless as possible for folks.
Coordinating so many humans in different departments having different needs, it's tremendous work. So what typically gets you and the Cove team on the door in terms of like we might need Cove to replace our existing or legacy
Yeah.
systems. So which one of all your features gets you in the door and then they understand that Cove can actually do a lot more than that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And people want to be oriented around, hey, what does this do relative to a product I know or a product I use?
Hmm.
And so we're typically tackling or consolidating, depending on the asset, anywhere from two to five solutions.
Okay.
So it's more in like, what's the point of entry? What resonates with you, whether it's more on the legacy kind of building ops, work order, preventive maintenance, inspection side, and then it gives us the opportunity to show the breadth and depth of the platform. So you may come in looking for one thing, or we get fortunate to be referred to you, but then you see the broader value proposition. And that's been really useful and beneficial for us in terms of how we engage with our clients. That alone is not enough. And it's really product and partner. So, how do the two go together? Last year, we didn't lose a building, right? We had basically had 100% retention. A few buildings did get sold. So in those instances, contracts do get canceled. But our premise is we have to be in front of our clients and onboard them in the way that they feel that they have to do very little, so it's seamless, and then succeed alongside them in that they understand we have the foundations, but we're also looking around the corners, right? We're spending so much time around artificial intelligence, not only in how we work, but how our clients can leverage it. So now it's not just consolidation, which has been historically, like you were asking about in terms of the breadth and what the entry point is, but
Hmm.
really that unified, integrated single platform that's a basis from which you have the intelligence and the automation to get ahead in what's coming. And a lot of our clients, as they should, are looking for support in that. It's an interesting time for all of us, let alone in real estate, which is like a very physical asset. It has people and real things happening, real things being fixed, repaired, preventive maintenance. How can we layer on predictive maintenance? How can we be the partner that's not overwhelming them, but also keeping them ahead of the market?
A lot to unpack there again, but and we're certainly going to dive deeper into AI. In terms of that handling, managing, finding a champion to lead that change management, because that's real. That's a fear that it's not that in real estate, large operators don't like technology, it's that they don't like disruption, right? You're handling 4 million square feet of people working there. It's in a single building. No one wants to be disrupted, even if it's the best technology of all. So, how do you guys approach that change management? Have you identified someone within a team that usually has more to gain or has more influence in having a smooth transition to 5 to 10 login point solutions to one that is Cove?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say probably our biggest potential roadblock is not necessarily like people see it and they're like, oh, I get it. And they understand the value talking to other clients of ours, but it is the like change management of like, why this? Our general belief is the product just can't be 15, 20% better than what they're using. There has to be a bigger story that would get buy-in in order to do this switch, especially when you think about some of the more legacy systems that they make folks maybe using for 10, 20 years, right? At this point. So you're hitting on it exactly. I think honestly, there's a moment in time, and AI has helped expediting this, where people are more open to change than you might otherwise guess. And I think it has to do with, yes, maybe experiences with their current solutions. And so maybe they're not getting the level of support, responsiveness, and that does create an opportunity right outside of the product. But if you're not getting the level of support, configuration that you need, antennas are already up. So I would say that this moment in time of, wait a minute, we need to think in terms of not just like how we're solving this problem, this one single problem, but how are we approaching technology more broadly, and how is it going to be infused in our business as a real estate owner, as a real estate operator, so that we're thinking ahead and we're presenting the best solutions not only for ownership but for our tenants. So I would say change management around that is very much positioning ourselves and being a partner in terms of how you would transition, how you would deploy, and what it feels and looks like to be an existing client. And the best way we can do that is show, don't tell. So show them the platform, show what it looks like to go through onboarding, build a simple implementation plan, show what a monthly sync with your dedicated CSM looks like, what a annual EBR, executive business review, might look like. And then quite frankly, talk to an existing client that looks like you, right? We've been so fortunate from our customer success and ongoing to have like such strong partners as clients that we do lean on and appreciate the way in which they advocate for us and are willing to talk through that transition, make it very, very real in terms of what they go through, and then being on the other side of it, the overall benefits and kind of opportunities that come out of it. I will say a hyper focus from us on that very concept, and then really leveraging and leaning into our existing clients to really help put prospective clients in the seat of, oh, I get it. That's really easy to do.
So you're now in over 3 to 4,000 buildings, including major New York City buildings from Blackstone, RXR, Silverstein, AmTrust Real Estate. So talk about some of the common operational blind spots that you still see at scale at some of these companies.
Yeah, it's a good question. And, as we talked about, some of the more urban or downtown have different needs than maybe an industrial site or a retail site. But I would say in the examples you gave, and going back to your last question on that change management, and one thing I didn't mention, but you just mentioned some like awesome and exciting clients of ours, right? And we've had the benefit and great fortune to be really a trusted partner to some of the best names in real estate. And that's made the change management exponentially easier, right? If we can deploy across someone's 20, 30 million square foot portfolio and bring in all of one's historical information so that they can manipulate it and play with it in our system, and then help standardize operations for these just large folks, it really does give people confidence. So that's one key component that I know I mentioned the client side, but I think just the trusted nature of our clients and the names has been very helpful. In
Mhm.
terms of like how we see in some of those examples or what's top of mind from operational, I think the merging of security, access, visitor management, the way in which a tenant accesses a space is really very complicated, right? It's touching property management, it's touching your security, it's touching your integrator on the technology side. we generally see kind of a gap on who's quarterbacking across all of those, right? And these are really complicated assets with like very important, very valuable pieces of real estate, hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion. And what's sitting in the middle to ensure that your security, that the visitor experience, the tenant experience is all tied into one, especially when we're hyper in tune with that right now from kind of a societal urban environment. So I would say that's one where we spent a lot of time on incident management, meets visitor management, meets elevator integrations, turnstiles, and just really a gap from the product set, and one that we've been excited to fill, and one that we're seeing great value, our clients are seeing great value from.
Very cool. Now, in terms of the type of clients you work with, so you serve both owner operators as well as third-party managers. Curious, where do incentives align and where do they clash? And how do you think about adoption? Are owner operators better suited for adopting and innovating in how they oversee their spaces compared to third-party managers? Or, yeah, how do you see the incentives aligning there?
Great question. I would say sometimes the owner operator perspective is obviously unique and different than, a third party operator insofar as they're seeing the full vertical integration from owning the asset to the capital expenses, and then what does it look like on an exit moment, and then how does that flow through to operations. So I think there's a certain element of the value we're able to add there, given that holistic view and the longer term planning around that and how it fits into a business plan, just given the number of data points we touch, the benchmarking we're able to create, and also how it fits into a 3 to 5 year horizon, or depending on if you're a long term holder or kind of more of a value add. But at the same time, the key and core component of what we do is creating just an awesome building experience for the operator and for the tenant. And so from that perspective and actual boots on the ground product perspective, it's it's equally valuable on both sides, meaning if I'm an operator or if I'm an owner operator. I think the benefit for an owner operator starts to become more from a portfolio perspective when they're looking across assets in a different way and benchmarking within their own portfolio. But at the same time, we have some awesome relationships with third parties that are doing the same thing, just in a different way and for a different reason. So I think there's just nuances to the value that comes out of that, but it's just predicated upon what's your view on it, what's your objective, but still always starting from a great operation, a great building experience. And that's where we always start. Win the hearts and minds of an operator, and then you can get in the tenant's hands, you can get into a portfolio perspective, either from an owner who's looking across or from a third party. How do they manage across a region? But it always starts with the operator first and foremost.
This episode is brought to you in collaboration with CREtech, one of the most valuable events I attend each year. It's happening on October 20th and 21st at the Javits Center in New York City. Whether you're a real estate owner, developer, investor, occupier, or tech leader, this is where business gets done. I've had the chance to grow real partnerships and discover tech solutions here that I might not have come across otherwise. And this year, CREtech New York is back with CREtech Meetup, the one-on-one meetings program that will deliver 20,000 pre-scheduled meetings. Designed for qualified real estate professionals, the program covers your full event pass plus up to $800 in travel and hotel costs. All you need to do is choose one-on-one meetings with tech companies that match your business needs. It's a smart, low-pressure way to explore what's out there without the typical event costs. If your company owns or manages 1,000 plus residential units or 1 million square feet of commercial space, and you're involved in tech or operations decision making, this is definitely worth checking out. Learn more in the show notes and see if you qualify by reaching out to us at community@tangentproptech.com. I'd love to hang out at the event as well, so feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Now, back to the show. Got it. So how do operators and occupiers interact or use Cove? You have a mobile app, you have a dashboard on site. How does it work?
Yeah, we have different personas. So we'll be at the front desk. We'll be in the hands of engineers when they're going to fulfill work orders, do preventative tasks, do inspections. We'll help streamline that experience to consolidate it, help prioritize, offer suggestions, really optimize kind of the back and forth as well. And that's where kind of the AI component starts to really bleed into it. But at the same time, we're also in the hands of tenants. We kind of have two key personas is the tenant admin. So you have someone who's acting on behalf of the go-between between your company and the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that could be an executive assistant, an office manager. There's typically a number of these folks within an individual organization or within a tenant. We have a certain level of permissions, a certain level of kind of duty of care for them in terms
Mm-hmm.
of helping them achieve what they need to do on behalf of the organization, whether it's approving work orders that may have a cost to it, making reservations on behalf of folks, bulk registering hundreds of visitors on behalf of the organization, versus I'm a tenant, I'm an employee, I download the app, suddenly I can just use my phone instead of my fob. So that's pretty cool unto itself, whether it's like Apple Wallet or Google Wallet or Bluetooth. But then, like, how do I hear and understand and interact with the building in a way that I haven't? Right. And again, if you're in the hands of the operator and they're using it to communicate, push notifications, inbox email to app as well as to normal email, highlights, putting on events. If we're effectively educating the operator on how the platform can be used to be in the hands and minds of the tenant in the an average employee, then there's real value for the employee, right? Because suddenly they're like interacting with this giant massive asset they otherwise may have felt less personalized.
Mm-hmm.
And so we become the conduit for the brand, for the building, for the operator, for the owner to really start to change the narrative in terms of what it means to be a tenant within their building. And it's early days in terms of how you can do that, right? Amenities are very important, events are really important in terms of like things going on. But the first thing that needs to happen is to be in their hands. And so we're that conduit to a really good experience as utility, there's engagement, and then like where we go from here is, it gets exciting from there.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about software as a tenant attraction and tenant retention when we're talking about retail or office spaces because leases tend to be longer than like a rental lease. Spaces tend to be larger. So there's obviously physical implications, considerations when tenants are thinking of staying or finding a different building. So we'll be curious to see, a few more years of
Yeah.
tenants and buildings using Cove and thinking
Yeah.
there's a real pain in leaving here if my next building is not going to have Cove.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And our role is the connector, right? The technology is only as good as the people on either end in the way in which it gets leveraged. And we need to streamline and enable folks to do the highest value work they possibly can. And so if you think about it from a tenant perspective, that means like a higher touch, like a better experience. So I totally agree with you. If we're an effective partner, we're falling by the wayside and the brand and the experience are highlighted. And then you
Hmm.
say, oh, that's an RXR building. I believe in that experience and I get it and it's
Hmm.
tangible to me. And so yeah, if we can do our, in our small way, do our part, that would be awesome to have that mind share.
Hmm. Artificial intelligence. Are we in a bubble? I'm joking. So AI, let's talk about how AI actually helps property managers, office admins, and more. So where are you seeing AI genuinely saving time? Is it around work order summaries, drafting announcements, inspection reporting, or something more entrenched already?
Yeah, it's all the above. So we're definitely doing like the things you just listed for sure. I think we are going through a moment in time societally outside of real estate where everyone's trying to understand and figure out how it's going to inform who we are and what we do on a very real level. I don't think it's any different in real estate in some ways more pronounced given the physical nature of it. So it's like, wait, how does it apply to this given it's a real asset? There's real people. But embedded in that is just a lot of repetitive manual tasks. And so there's really great opportunity that we're solving for right now around just practical examples of COI extraction or service agreement extraction, where you upload this document and it literally creates like all of the preventative maintenance work that needs to happen tied back to that vendor. And so it no longer lives in a PDF, but those tasks live in our system so you can suddenly performance manage against it, that vendor. Those are like really exciting I wouldn't say low hanging fruit because they have huge opportunity to save time. I would say more holistically, it's taking a fresh pass at the way in which we think about it is first and foremost, win the hearts and minds of the operator. So how do we do it in such a way that AI is additive and not getting in the way or scary? And
Mhm.
that's not an easy ask. Change management is 100% part of that, but it's more about, hey, here's what we can unlock together.
Mm.
Here's where we're going from the way in which we're infusing it and helping it drive everything we do so that it can live alongside you, as opposed to a more buzzy, oh, we are AI and AI is doing this, AI does that. It's about the outcomes and the things we're solving and the time we're saving. And it's less about AI is doing this or that. So I think that's like the first thing in order to ever get adoption and realize it is about going back to what you said, change management and how we present it, how we present it in our product. We have like a crawl, walk, run strategy, right? We're not going to run right now because that's not beneficial for anyone. We're in the crawl to walk phase, right? Even if we wanted to run, that would be unfair for our clients and unfair for the market. So we're infusing it in the right way so that it becomes very practical, very real, but it tells the story of AI as an outcome based enabler and not just the notion of AI.
Yep. Sounds reasonable. So let's talk a little bit about predictions. You've said recently that annual tenant surveys are out and real-time engagement, especially tied to work orders and events, is in. So why is the old way of collecting feedback no longer good enough for institutional owners?
Yeah, goes back to your comment on the 7 or 10 year lease, which is you're getting that feedback, that new buy decision in a very elongated time frame. I think if you have that, if you always operate with that perspective in mind, then an annual survey becomes more applicable. But I think if you're evolving and always trying to, in folks, and we see this from our clients, how do we learn more in real time what's happening, what's resonating, how is the experience, to enhance it? Then it works out to how do we infuse surveys, feedback, NPS as trigger events that happen when you do something, right? When a work order is completed, when an event takes place, when a visitor has just completed their registration. So we're tagging surveys quick, things we're very used to, 3, 4 dial answers. So you can get feedback in real time on how these things are going. And then that feed loop starts going. And then it becomes part of how you operate. It becomes part of how you think about the experience and not just like a moment in time, which is hard to learn from on an ongoing basis.
If we fast forward 3 years, what part of property management will look radically different than what it looks like today?
I think property management is hard to couch relative to everything else happening. So it feels that you could say this about most everything, right? But it does feel like a great moment in time in terms of as we think about it, how do we reduce the repetitive tasks that we don't need folks to be doing, that we can do as a partner in a technology solution on their behalf? And they're still in the loop, right? Whether it's issuing access cards, like there's this very high volume of work orders that associated with managing credentials, we can automate a lot of that. So I think the evolution of a property management role, I think it can lead to a lot more customer facing, right? As opposed to administrative work. And we operate against that mentality of cut out the administrative side as much as we can, the repetitive components, so that folks can really shine at the front facing stuff.
You've said that you rarely lose clients unless a building is sold. And even when a building is sold, you manage to keep them on board whenever possible. So, how do you think about embedding yourselves into core building workflows and also that handoff between ownership to stay relevant and to stay providing value regardless of ownership?
When a building typically gets sold, or if a building gets sold, part of the conversation is with that transition is with the existing property team, right? Sometimes that team will stay in place. And so if we're doing our job effectively, they're communicating the value of what we've put in place and the workflows we've helped enable at that site. And so our hope, and we've been fortunate in a good number of instances where our advocates are the users, even though they may not be the buyers, right?
Mm.
And so then us working in tandem with them is to communicate the value so that if you no longer had Cove on an asset that you just purchased, it's going to be a degraded experience. You're going to lose a number of operational efficiencies, that direct line to tenants, that literally that access. So how do you open the door? We are doing a lot, again, like a lot of breadth, but real depth. So it becomes, a great conversation for us in terms of showing that value proposition, but done in tandem with the existing property team.
I see. Last but not least, collaboration superpower. If you could choose one person, historic or living, to do a partnership with, who would it be?
Historic or living to do a
Dead
partnership
or
with.
alive, to do a partnership with for Cove or for any of your other hobbies or personal interests. Ideally, do not pick Elon Musk or Steve Jobs because people pick them a lot and they're awesome.
No. All right, I got it. I think I got it. I think I have a fiduciary responsibility to Cove. So I would say let's focus on them, irrespective of who I may want to meet outside of and running Cove. Thomas Edison, my goodness, that he crushed, like we were talking about Philadelphia prior to this. He made his way through all of these sectors, like the sheer number of patents, the sheer breadth and like depth that light bulbs, the motion picture camera, like he didn't apply himself to one area, but it went so cross-functional. So like he can have my role on the team and just to get him inside, whatever it takes, whatever the sell takes. But if we can just get a little of that shine on us, I think that'd be pretty sweet.
So many things to say about Thomas Alva Edison. I think he not only invented the electric chair, but he also trying to prove that the, is it the alternative current from his competitor? He developed direct current, alternative current. He wanted to scare people away from their competitors' electricity type, and he started electrocuting. I can't remember if it was people or animals to scare people away. Didn't work out because alternate current is better than direct current. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that'd be pretty sweet.
Adam, where can office, retail, and other commercial real estate owners, operators, and occupiers learn more about Cove and connect with you?
www.cove.is. Love to get in front and tell you about our solution, show you demonstrate a demo, have you talk to clients. It's an exciting time and we really want to be kind of that key and core partner for what's next.
Do you have any fiduciary to the state of Iceland or just sounds cool?
That's
Cove
that's
is.
right. When you're starting a company, I discovered it's really hard to triangulate a .com name, a trademark, and something that's available. And that also actually fits in what you want from a name, being the third. So yeah, so we indexed a two, missed out on three, but we got IS because originally the branding we talk about like Cove is in our co-working days, like Cove is neighborhood, Cove is.
There's
So
something there.
that
There's something there.
there's something there. It's fallen off a little bit, but we had a vision. It's a little extra for that domain back in the day, but we stick to it.
Love it. Adam Segal, co-founder and CEO of Cove. Thank you so much for coming to Tangent today and sharing your insights, your exciting company, and your wisdom with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Edward. Really appreciate it. Awesome to be on and representing Team Co.
Muchas gracias. And thank you for listening to this episode of Tangent PropTech. If you learned something new or enjoyed the conversation, text a friend the link to this episode right now. You can find links, resources, and ways to connect with us in the show notes, or reach out anytime at tangentcommunity@gmail.com. We love interview suggestions, topic ideas, or just a friendly hello. If you're building something impactful in real estate or tech and want to reach our audience of decision makers, investors, and operators, email us. That's tangentcommunity@gmail.com.